channel where we listen to spooky stories and eat some really yummy food together. Look at what I got today. Some Korean dogs. I got the box, so it's like a mystery box. They gave me 3 options. So excited to jump in. This is a new spot in my area, so I'm excited to try. So yeah, I've been super sick for 2 weeks. I'm finally starting to feel a little bit better. Kinda weird getting sick in the summertime. It feels supernatural. For today's stories, we're gonna be listening to people's scary stories about the camping. These stories are the exact reason why I'm so terrified to go camping. Don't get me wrong, I love nature and I love the woods, but sleeping in a tent feels so unprotected. And there's something very terrifying about the woods at nighttime. Just keep a mindful thought. Let's get into our first bites. These are huge. Boo, thanks. That was so yummy. I can't wait to dive in. So with that being said, get yourself a cozy blanket and get yourself your favorite snack, because we're about to get freaky, guys. Let's go. Let's begin with story number 1.
When I was in high school, my friends and I went out to a really remote spot in the mountains to camp. Just to get there, you needed a pretty serious off-roader. It was about 30 miles up a super rough road. There were river crossings, huge boulders in the road, and tons of sand pits. This road took us all day. And all day we didn't see a single other person. No one passed us. We didn't see anyone camping. Nothing. At one point, one of my friends noted it looked like no one had even driven on the road in a while. Which was weird because this was in Colorado, and trails like this are really popular. Something worth pointing out, this road led into a box canyon, which is basically nature's cul-de-sac. The road we were on was the only road in, and the only road out. All around us was massive cliffs. And another thing, we were deep in the mountains, far from any cell service. On top of that, we were in a box canyon, which even if you're next to a city never has service. All that said, we eventually got to the spot and set up camp. Every time we went camping, we played capture the flag. This trip was no exception. We waited for it to get dark, then started. In the middle of the second round, me and one of my friends on my team hop up on the road, which ran parallel to area we were playing in. It seemed like a good way to get around to the other flag. Walking down road, we began to see a glow coming towards us. Our first thought was it's another 4x4 coming towards us. But as it got closer, we realized it was a young woman holding up her phone, looking for service. She was still at a distance, but we could tell she was panicky. She was rushing and stumbling at the same time. She didn't seem drunk. It was weird. We called out, "Hello?" No response. But it wasn't just that she ignored us. It was more like she didn't even realize we were there. We tried again. "You okay?" Nothing. As she's passing us, we realize she's crying. Again, "You okay?" She stumbles right past us, never showing a single sign that she saw us. The whole time just looking at her phone for service. My friend and I are frozen. We watch her go, still stumbling, still crying. She rounded a turn, then disappeared. I yell out to my everyone else to meet back at camp. We do. I tell them what we saw. And I'm not proud to admit this because it seemed like she needed help, but we got creeped out. We said we'd stay in camp that night, and in the morning, we'd go looking. The first thing we do in the morning is decide there must be some other people camped down the road. They must know her. So we go down to the end of the road. There's no sign of anyone. Then we decided to go to the entrance of the road and look for the woman. So we drive to the entrance, which took all day. Nothing. I still feel guilty for not trying harder to help her. But thinking about how she got in that position, it just doesn't make sense. She didn't look like a hiker. She had on regular jeans and a sweater. If she had gotten in the canyon from the other side, it would require a very technical descent. She would have needed gear, and she didn't even have a backpack. We were pretty sure we were the only ones that had driven down that road in a while, so it's not like someone dropped her off or left her. And the whole time we saw her, she was holding up her phone looking for service. If she knew the area at all, she would know there was no way she was going to find service. I don't know what to make of it, but I do know that the image of that woman stumbling in the dark, crying, has been seared in my brain ever since.
Stories like that make me so sad because she probably was a ghost who was just looking for help, or maybe she is stuck on a loop. Because of the trauma, she probably doesn't even know she's dead. What do you guys think? Creepy things happen in the woods. Don't go in the woods at night. Let's get into our next story.
This happened on a trip a few years ago one night midweek, when the park is usually quieter. I woke up having to use the bathroom around 2 a.m., so I left the trailer to go to the comfort stations. The site was one of those corner sites, so there's a really short trail in the back of the site through the woods before you get to the lights where the washroom is. You can technically go around the front, but I figured I would just cut through there like I usually do to save time because I was tired. As I'm passing the middle of the trail, I hear a light noise that sounds like it's right beside my ear. It sounded like giggling. So I picked up the pace a little bit and started looking for a raccoon or porcupine or something. They make weird noises, but I couldn't see anything or hear any twigs cracking, which I thought was weird. No sign of a person out there either. As soon as the last thought crossed my mind, I swear to this day that I heard something deeper in the woods and a female voice say, "Hello?" To say I jumped was an understatement. I sprinted full throttle to the lights, tripped on a log, and ripped my pant leg and shin. I made it to the bathrooms alive, feeling painful and kind of stupid. Once I was at the comfort station, I did my business, and talked myself out of it being anything unnatural like the good biologist that I am. I figured I must have just misheard a raccoon or something. I didn't really believe in the paranormal, so worst case it was an actual person. I didn't feel like getting jumped by some weirdo while I'm out at night by myself, so I made the decision to take the longer way back in the open road and skip the shortcut. As I passed by the entranceway for the woods, giving it a wide berth if we're being honest, again, I can only tell you what I heard, but I swear as clear as day I heard a whisper that said, "Come back." I think that's the fastest I've ever run in my life. I'm a little embarrassed to say I don't do camp bathrooms at night by myself anymore, but I can't explain what happened. Luckily, my family got a new trailer the following season with an indoor bathroom, so it hasn't been an issue since.
Yeah, no, if you have to go pee when you're camping in the middle of the night, no you don't. Look that up. You hold that and no one is trying to go out in the woods in the middle of the night. Don't do it.
I've posted this on other threads, but here goes. I have a story about something I heard that scared the shit out of me. I was on a student exchange program to the US, specifically New Mexico. I'm not from the US BTW. And near the end of my stay, my host family, the dad, mom, me, and their 2 daughters decided to go camping. When it was getting dark, 16-year-old me and the 2 daughters decided to go climb a tree a bit away from the campsite, and when we reached the top of a tree, we stopped dead in our tracks because of a sound I'll never forget. The youngest daughter, who was 14, was calling my name, which is a typical Dutch name, so not something some New Mexico local would just shout since they would have trouble pronouncing it. The thing was, this girl was sitting just below me, not saying a word. We sat there as this Thing, whatever it was, kept shouting my name in her voice for what felt like an eternity, but was actually just 5 minutes. And when it stopped, we bolted back to campsite where the mom and dad were sitting just enjoying the evening. But when we told them, the dad's face became pale as a ghost, and immediately told us to grab our things because we were leaving, and 5 minutes later we were gone. To this day, I still have no idea WTF that was, and the dad never wanted to talk about it.
Sounds like a mimic to me. Sounds like a skinwalker. What's terrifying is, how do they just know this information? Like your name, or like the fact that it's a foreign name. So they know how to properly pronounce it. It's so scary. My guess is a skinwalker. These Korean hot dogs are huge. I'm trying my best, but it feels like the stories are going so fast. Anyways, next story.
My time to shine. Me and my girlfriend started dating 5 years ago. We both love hiking and camping. She worked until about 10 p.m. every night. But in the beginning of our relationship, we always wanted to see each other, so we would go hiking at night pretty often. Usually places that we knew well, but one night we picked a new place and went out. The park and trails were closed, but we went anyways. We hiked about 5 miles in. I had the flashlight, but my girlfriend was getting frustrated because I kept moving the light around to look at frogs and shit. She took the light, and as we were going around a bend, the light showed a smiling, bearded man about 50 feet in front of us, hiding behind a log off the side of the trail. We stopped walking, and he came out smiling like a lunatic, saying things like, "Oh, hey guys, there you are," and walking closer to us. I'm 6 feet 4 inches and athletic built, and this man was bigger than me. As he got closer, he kept saying he knew my girlfriend, and I wasn't sure if he did or not, as we had just started dating, but she didn't say anything and looked scared. I took the flashlight from her, put it directly into his face, and moved her behind me. All the while he's trying to inch closer to us. As he is moving, I notice another man right behind him, also moving closer and flanking to the side of us. The second man had long, stringy black hair and was missing an eye. Totally open eye socket with a big scar. I switched the light back and forth between their faces, thinking that if they're going to try to hurt us, I'm going to have an advantage if they're blinded. I pulled my knife out and slapped it open as hard as I could so they could hear the sound, and told them to back up. They got closer still, and I told them I have a knife and really don't want to have to kill anybody tonight. They both laughed and stared at us for what felt like an hour of silence as their smiles slowly went flat. This was the most insidious feeling I've ever had. Then I yelled at them to back the beep up, and they turned around and started running. I turned the flashlight off so it was pitch black, got down on my knee, and I listened to their footsteps for about 15 seconds. Then there was some leaves rustling and the sound stopped. They ran away and hid off of the trail again. I grabbed my girlfriend's hand and we started walking back the way we came with no light, trying to listen for footsteps. She hadn't said a word since we first saw them. We made it out and I called the police and told them a short rundown of what had happened, and I felt that they were hiding and planning on hurting people. I never heard anything back from them. Later that night, my girlfriend told me that she had blacked out because she was so scared and only really remembers the men walking towards us smiling like psychopaths. I think a lot about how it would have ended had it been 2 women hiking, or younger kids messing around in the woods.
I feel so bad for your girlfriend. Oh my god, she blacked out. I mean, to be honest, I would also black out. That sounds like a very terrifying experience. Guys, what's more terrifying? Humans in the woods or supernatural beings in the woods? Because that story makes you think. Guys, those were my stories for today. Look at how much I still have left. Like, these corn dogs are huge. Excuse me. These corn dogs are huge. What am I gonna do here? Let me see if I have another story.
Sorry all who read this before. I repost my story for engagement on these threads. It's also long because I have never told a short story in my life. My wife hates it. Obligatory. I know this sounds fantastical and wild, and I agree. This is in fairly remote backcountry West Virginia, which is known for being old and haunted. It was experienced entirely by 2 of us, but the worst parts by all 4. This led to all four of us at some point battling personal issues in our lives that I believe stemmed directly from this encounter. The following is, at least to my memory and what I've been able to corroborate with the other people that were there, 100% accurate and true. When I was 17, 2004, we had a bad experience camping near haunted train tunnels and sites of sudden tragic death. History of immediate, 1 square mile area, mother and son drowning in the creek nearby. Old man hung himself from this old dead tree that hung over the water. Cliché creepy dead hanging tree, I know. Drug dealers killed in state police shootout at a nearby hunting cabin, and many, many years before, cheap laborers had been killed building this double set of train tunnels. They were actually buried in a long, forgotten little graveyard nearby the tunnels that has since been found and restored. We decided to go camping before graduation as a friend group of 4 just to do something one last time before we all went our separate ways in life. This is private property on the backside of a big forested hill around which the creek flows in a huge, several-mile-long bend. Camp set up, fire going. Shortly after nightfall, my cousin and I sat on the creek bank maybe 20 yards away from camp spotlighting fish in the water. We began to hear a rhythmic slosh of what sounded like someone wading through the water maybe halfway up their shin deep, so we shined the light around upstream. We then spotted the symmetrically and rhythmically consistent disturbance made by what looked and sounded like invisible feet, legs sloshing towards us. When we would turn our spotlight off, it would start. It would stop when illuminated. It was reacting to us, and this was the first ice bucket stomach clench moment we knew this was not fish, and could not rationalize what was happening. This scared us pretty badly, but we decided best to kept it to ourselves and joined the others gathered at the fire. As we made our way back, we heard the sloshing make it to where we were on the bank and the noise stopped. Given the speed we witnessed it moving and how far it was from us when we were watching it, it must have sped up to make it to the bank we were on in the amount of time it took us to get back to camp. Others at the camp heard it as well and figured we had either gotten in or somehow riled up some fish, but we just played it off. It sounded and looked like an invisible person wading towards us through the water. After the noise ended at the creek bank, we all saw the tall grass disturbed as something we couldn't see ran around the foliaged perimeter of our circularly cleared campsite. This could have been an animal, but it was fast. We then began to hear what sounded like a man talking to us, as in speaking into the ear of each person, the left ear if that matters. At first it sounded garbled, but after maybe 15 to 20 seconds, we could make out the words saying, "We shouldn't be there," and we needed to leave, before finally addressing us directly and saying slightly more forcefully, "You need to leave." Obviously, this was terrifying, and at first we thought there was a person or group of people out there walking up on our camp, and that is dangerous. We were all frozen with fear, but then adrenaline hit. As we freaked out and started to run to our ATV, all 4 of us saw a tall black shadow man wearing what looked like a hat, relaxing against the front of our ATV. It straightened up when we saw it, and it saw us, and it just sort of hung there staring at us for a few seconds. No feet. The legs ended in sort of wavy lines like looking above the fire at the heat waves. It stood out against the dark night behind it. The girl screamed, which broke our fear freeze, and it zipped like the flash back towards the train tunnels people had died in. Interestingly, when we went to start the ATV, it turned over sluggishly as if the battery had been slightly drained, despite working fine not long before when we wrote it down. This entire event happened over the course of maybe 5 to 10 minutes and within an hour of the sun going down. After putting our story out there, I received a lot of feedback from people who have also had bad encounters in this area over many years. Even a guy I worked with, who I didn't know knew this area, told me that my uncle had hired him to trap in that area, and it was the only place he didn't check traps alone at night. He said it was almost like the animals leave that place at night. No less than a month later, my uncle who owns the property was up on the hill raccoon hunting at night with a dog. At some point the dog was on a rock face up above him and knocked a large rock loose that fell and struck my uncle in the side of the neck. This understandably messed him up pretty bad and paralyzed almost his entire body, but he still had limited functionality on his left side. We could never figure out how he got himself back to his ATV and turned it around and drove himself out of there. It wasn't until probably 2 or 3 years later, around Halloween when my story makes its rounds on the local Facebook groups, that my uncle texted my mother out of the blue. You have no reason to believe my uncle's character reference, but he is a salt of the earth, hunting, farming, working man, even working past his retirement as a millionaire. Honest, funny, just an incredibly stand-up guy. He is easygoing, but also no nonsense. In his text to my mother, he said, "I've never told anybody this before, and I probably won't again. The man in the hat the kids saw at the creek that night helped pick me up off the ground and put me back on my ATV and get me turned around." Until I heard that, I had always assumed that the shadow man was the one who was trying to scare us out of there, but thinking back on it, maybe he was the one whispering to us, telling us we need to leave, and possibly avoid something scarier and more dangerous, although I have no idea what could have been scarier than that.
Yo, what a twist of events. I could have sworn I said, maybe he's protecting you. I don't know, I'm gonna have to check back, but what a turn. So the Shadow Man was being helpful. We're gonna get into an episode of the Top Hat Man because there's a lot of people who have seen him, and strangely enough, not everyone has an intimidating experience with him, kind of like his uncle here. He actually had a good experience with the Top Hat Man, so stay tuned for that, y'all. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, these corn dogs are huge. I cannot finish it. They are so delicious though, but don't worry, I have people downstairs that are gonna finish this, okay? And if you're looking at the paint on my pinky, it's finger paint. I was finger painting with my son, okay? Leave me alone. Anyways, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.